I'll pull myself another. Hello and welcome to 100 Yards of Football, Sports Talk Radio. I am your producer, Jeremiah Long, and joining me here on our Monday show is our two hosts that kick it every Monday with me. It's Logan Landers and Mr. Football, Vincent Turner. How's it going, guys?
Hey, how you doing this morning?
I'm doing great, man. How's it going, Logan?
Man, I'm doing great, Jeremiah. Another month. Hey, it's fall, baby. It's fall. I got, long sleeve shirt on. Got some coffee going on after the show's ready. I'm ready to, get some hoodies, watch some football. I'm ready for it, man. I'm doing awesome.
Oh, yeah. And a quick shout out to our podcast audience. We're going to try to get this out to them as well. But for everybody who's watching, we want to remind you that we are launching our brand new podcast edition, which will be a near daily edition coming out 5 days a week of our show. So make sure that you subscribe on any of the platforms, be it Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, or any of the other ones there. That's with the Believe Podcast Network, so we're really excited to bring that. Well, today we are talking Vols, baby, and we are talking Gamecocks. So today is a big deal for me because I love SEC football. I'm going to let the experts take it, though. We're going to talk about the game of the week, the Tennessee Volunteers versus the South Carolina Gamecocks. I'm going to take it to you guys.
All right, let's do it, man. So, without further ado, I'm your host, Logan Landers, as y'all know. My man, the football encyclopedia, Mr. Football himself, Vincent Turner. We're going to break down this game for y'all between the Tennessee Vols and South Carolina Gamecocks coming to you this upcoming Saturday on September 26th. So, Vincent, my man, let's do this, man. Let's talk about the Vols and the Gamecocks. So, first question for you, man. The 16-ranked Vols, and the unranked Gamecocks, SEC battle. First question, man. How do you think this Tennessee offense is going to hold up? Because they got some pretty good weapons.
Well, let me start with this. I want to give kudos to Jeremy Pruitt. I think what he's done in 3 years at Tennessee is getting them back to where they were in the 90s at a championship level. I'm going to go on and say it there. I'm not saying they are all the way there yet in the SEC East with Georgia and Florida, but I'm liking what Mr. Pruitt is doing. And think about this. Last year, when they went 0-2, it was a whole different type of feel up there on the hill in Knoxville. But let's talk about the Tennessee offense. And I'm going to make it real short and sweet. When you look at Tennessee, it's all about the quarterback position. Jerry Galantino, he played up and down last year. When he played well, Tennessee was very competitive. When he played bad, Tennessee was very inconsistent on offense. But the one thing that I like about the Volunteers this year that's been a key acquisition, Cade Mays comes over the Tennessee on the offensive side of the ball, and him being on the offensive line is going to make, to me personally, Tennessee is going to have the best offensive line in the conference. No hands down. When you look at it, Trey Smith, now you got Cade Mays, you got Brandon Kennedy, you got a top 5 offensive line, and overall, the bottom line is Tennessee is their ability with this type of line, they're going to be able to run the football. And they got 2 really good running backs coming back, Eric Gray and Trey Chandler from last season. So when you look at on the outside, it's all about the offensive line, and really it's about the quarterback, Jared Galantino. Can he play well and can he be consistent? He's a five-year guy. He's been in the system a while. But the one key point is that he's got Jim Chaney coming back as the offensive coordinator in his second year. Galantino, before Mr. Chaney came on the hill as offensive coordinator, had 3 different offensive coordinators. Now you're being under Mr. Chaney for 1 year, you should be a better player. And if Galantino plays well, Tennessee can make a lot of noise in the SEC East.
Yeah, that's funny you mentioned Garantano there, because a while back, me and Jeremiah did a prospect profile on Harrison Bailey, that young freshman coming up. So I know a lot of Vols fans are waiting to see him. So my question to you here, if Garantano doesn't have a good game, potentially, because you see Bailey getting in.
Well, I'd love to see that happen, to be honest. I mean, the only reason that Bailey's probably not starting because he's a freshman, then we had the pandemic. They didn't have spring practice, but it wouldn't be no question about it. You're talking about a guy that was a 5-star prospect out of the state of Georgia, threw for almost 4,700 yards last year, 50 touchdowns, and his team won the state championship at the highest level here in the state of Georgia. So there's no question about it that he's lingering in the woods waiting for Mr. Jared Galantino to make mistakes. And when you look overall, the quarterback position is so critical now. If you look at all the top teams in college football, you look at Trevor Lawrence, you look at Justin Fields at Ohio State, Trevor Lawrence at Clemson. If you get a quarterback that can play at that level, you can be very competitive.
Yeah, no doubt. I know a lot of Vols fans are ready to see Harrison Bailey. I'm personally ready to see him play. This guy he lit it up in high school, and hopefully he'll carry over to the Vols. So we talked a little bit about the offense for Tennessee, but let's talk about the offense for South Carolina. What are they going to bring to the table? We thought coming into the season that Ryan Helinski was going to be the starting quarterback, but this past week that just all changed. How do you think this is going to affect the Gamecocks, game plan going into this game against the Vols?
Well, you look at the Gamecocks. Mike Bobo is the new offensive coordinator coming over, former head man at Colorado State for 6 years. Him and Will Muschamp, who's the head coach, are very personal friends. They played at Georgia. Make a long story short, critical year for Will Muschamp. South Carolina has to play well on the offensive side of the ball. So that's what they brought Mr. Bobo in for. But the key, as you mentioned, I was very surprised that they named the young man in South Carolina quarterback. I'm looking at his name, Colin Hill, as the quarterback. And he played with Bobo at Colorado State. Guy that knows Coach Bobo's system. So he went with the more experienced guy, and probably Ryan Helinski played well last year at times as a freshman, but he was inconsistent. And when you look at this is a 1-year deal for Will Muschamp. Last year they went 4-8. They got a very tough schedule. They're going to be pretty good on the defensive side of the ball. So when did they have problems? They couldn't score last year. And when you look at overall, another key point that's happened in South Carolina, they lost Marshawn Floyd, one of the top running backs in the country last year as a high schooler. True freshman, tore his knee up in preseason camp. He's out for the year. So now it comes more imperative that you're going to bring a guy that you can trust. And you see with Coach Bobo, I'm not shocked, but he's got a guy that's going to play in his system and play with him at Colorado State. And if that happens, then South Carolina is going to be a pretty good football team with the quarterback playing real well at a high level. But look at Mr. Bobo to bring his tendencies, what he brought from Colorado State. He was a guy at Georgia, was the offensive coordinator. Georgia liked to run the football. But then when he got to Colorado State, he kind of mixed it up, sprinkled the pass, and they came more. I'm not going to say a more, but I want to say an offense that's so much predicated on the run. They became an offense that came more balanced and threw the ball more. And Coach Bobo, if you look at his time at Colorado State, they set records from an offensive standpoint. And then most of all, 3 out of 6 years, they had the highest scoring offense in Colorado State history. And he produced a pretty good wide receiver in Preston Williams, who right now is playing with the Miami Dolphins, who last year had a pretty good season until he got injured.
Yeah, no doubt. So, yeah, we'll see how that new quarterback change affects the Gamecocks offense, because I know everyone, I thought, going into the season thought that Helinski was going to be taking over the quarterback position once again. I know we thought so. We did a player profile on him a while back, and I was impressed with him. But like you said, just Colin came in and just took the spot from him.
When you look at it, one key point about Colin Hill, he played at Colorado State under Coach Bobo's system. Career yards, he threw for over 3,500 yards and 30 touchdowns in his career. So he's a guy that, when you look at it, let's be honest, South Carolina, Will Muschamp, great coach, love him as a guy, watch him afar. I think he's one of the top 3 defensive minds in college football, but his job is on the line. He brought his best friend, Mike Bobo, coming down there. So they're not going to play around with no inconsistency at the quarterback position. The bottom line, Colin Hill was a guy that played for Coach Bobo at Colorado State. He knows the system. And from my readings and understanding, following South Carolina up there, he really was consistent in practices.
Yeah, that's the good thing, man. You never know with college sports, because if you have a really good practice for a good string of, a good amount of times, you could take over spots. That's the beauty about college football. You just never know what's all going to happen. So you mentioned that Muschamp was one of the best defensive-minded coaches. So I want to ask you this. How do you think the defense for South Carolina is going to hold up against this Tennessee offense?
Well, I think what you're going to see, of course, you're going to see a team that brings back a lot of experience on the defensive side of the ball. Matter of fact, South Carolina defense is going to probably carry them early based on Coach Bobo trying to get his offensive system. But going up against Tennessee, you're looking at a South Carolina defense has got some very good players. Aaron Sterling, a local kid out of Tucker, Georgia, where we broadcasting day out of Atlanta, played very well as a high school senior. He's had a great career up there in South Carolina. Then they got 2 5-star defensive tackles, Jordan Birch, who everybody said was the best defensive lineman in the country. Remember, he didn't sign December. And look at the teams that use him one day, Clemson, use him one day, LSU. This guy is going to be a future NFL player. Then you got Zach Pickens, who played well last year, another 5-star. Then they got J.C. Horn, saw the kid play as 8-year-old over in Alpharetta. Father Joe Horn played in the National Football League, one of the best cornerbacks in the country. South Carolina is loaded on the defensive side of the ball, and I really expect on Saturday against Tennessee is going to be a very close defensive battle. And one other thing, they got a very good middle linebacker in Ernest Jones, one of the best in the conference. Last year had over 107 tackles. He's a junior this year. So you talking about their defense, look for Carolina under Will Muschamp, South Carolina. They're going to have a good defense. And what more will we expect? Will Muschamp is a defensive-minded coach, and you know South Carolina is going to play defense.
Yeah, definitely star-studded for the Gamecocks. Like you said, mention all those great names, those 5-star recruits, and just that pure talent and raw strength on that side is absolutely incredible. So let's flip it over to the Vol side. How do you think their defense is going to hold up against the Carolina offense?
Well, like I said, Tennessee last year improved defensively last year. I think Derek Inslee is a great upcoming mind. Last year had a lot of problems coming out of the gates. But like I said, what I was impressed about Tennessee as a football team, and especially on the defensive side of the ball, that improved each game as the season progressed, their defense got better. Kayvon Bennett, Cornelius Bennett's son, former Alabama great, played great ball for him last year. Arbery Solomon, a transfer from Michigan, is a pretty good player. They got good people on the back end. Bryce Thompson is one of the best defensive backs in the country. So this is a Tennessee team that's going to be pretty stout. I think on both sides of the ball, they returned 7 starters on defense. So when you look at Tennessee and South Carolina, expect the game that's going to be very close. I'm looking at a 17-14 game. And the biggest part to this football game, as I always say, to me, it's going to come down to which quarterback plays well, because you're going to have 2 defenses on the field that's got a lot of experience, and it's really going to be the focus of their teams early.
Yeah, no doubt. I also see it being a close game. I for sure think that Tennessee's going to pull out the win on this one. I got them going 21-14. So I could see the Vols. It's not going to be a cakewalk by any means. These are 2 very stout teams. I know Tennessee is ranked and South Carolina isn't, but hey, like you said, look out for that South Carolina defense. They're just going to be absolutely ball hawks. You never know where they're going to be. They're going to be running all around. And yeah, it's going to be a barn burner for sure, man. I'm ready to see it. I'm hyped for this game. This is going to be a heck of a game. But we got my prediction. We got your prediction. I got to know from our producer, our dude, Jeremiah Long, how do you think this game is going to be? How do you think the Vols are going to go up against the Gamecocks?
Man, okay, so the Gamecocks and the Vols are a team I've seen play plenty of times. I grew up in Knoxville during my high school era and during my first career in television. So I've seen them play quite a few times. And I'll tell you, I don't know. Okay, so our rivalry is one of those rivalries that's developed over time. It used to be that like Florida was the big rivalry, but when Spurrier moved over to the Gamecocks and everything, that's when that rivalry began to just grow and move over there. So with the current climate and with their current staff and everything, I just want to see how it goes, really. Because okay, so here's my biggest memory of the Gamecocks and the Vols. You imagine this: I'm down on the Strip. I'm working a promotion where I'm actually dressed like a giant rooster, but I'm not with the Gamecocks. I'm actually just dressed like a giant rooster. It has nothing to do with it. So everybody kept wondering, if I was involved with the Gamecocks. So they put a giant UT Vols shirt on me. And I don't know what it was about that game or that thing, but we ended up, we being the Vols, we ended up winning that game. And I just want to say that I think it's partial. I think it's mainly about the fans. The fans are going to be watching from home this time. They're not going to be, interacting in the same way as the past. So I'm hoping that actually will benefit us, because at least we'll have all that positive energy coming towards us. Not necessarily 100,000 strong, cheering on or anything, but I'm really excited to see how that goes for that. What's your final words for this game, guys?
Vince, I'm going to let you get it first, man.
I expect a game that's going to be hard, physical. I think what we're going to see whether or not Tennessee is worthy of their national ranking, 16th in the country right now. A lot of people saying in the Tennessee Nation, can they challenge Georgia and Florida? That's what I'm going to be looking for. If they win this football game, can we put them in the same category as the two teams that are favored in the Eastern Division? As far as South Carolina, big football game, man. Will Muschamp, he's on the hot seat. We all know what the situation is there. I think he's a good football coach. The Gamecocks offensively, looking at how they're going to perform on the Mike Bobo, and then Colin Hill be naming a starter. That being said, we're going to find out which team is going to challenge in the SEC East, the winner of this football game.
Yeah, I'm with you on that too, Vince. I think that Tennessee needs to come out and just, like I said, I know it's going to be a close game because that South Carolina defense is no joke. But Tennessee needs to make a statement. They need to come out. They need to prove people that they are serious this year. And if you're South Carolina, you're looking for the upset. You know that it's going to be a tough year. You know that Will Muschamp is fighting for his job right now. If you come out and you beat Tennessee, man, that might be the highlight of the year for them, and that might save Will Muschamp's job. So we'll have to see. Like I said, I expect a real physical game, a defensive battle. It might not be the most exciting, game we're ever going to see. Not going to be 500 passing yards on each side, but there's nothing wrong with a good defensive battle by any means. And I got Tennessee going with a win in this one.
Whew. Man, it's going to be a great game. I'm sure everybody's really excited to get back to watching some amazing SEC football from some amazing programs. Well, if you like the show, you have been watching 100 Yards of Football, Sports Talk Radio. I am your producer, Jeremiah Long, and I've been joined by the two hosts with the most, Mr. Logan Landers and Mr. Football himself, Vincent Turner. If you like the show, please make sure you subscribe on all of our channels, including Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and our new upcoming near daily podcast with the Believe Podcast Network that will be available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and everywhere that podcasts show up. So anywhere that you listen to your podcast, join us there. For the whole team here, I am Jeremiah Long, and we'll see you just a little bit later in the week where we're going to be broadcasting more shows live today and on Wednesday. We'll see you then.